American accent? Justin Gaethje drops a bomb on Daniel Cormier's claim about the new UFC Paramount deal increasing fighter pay. He says he didn't get paid a single extra dollar. Sets the tone. Are fighters being lied to? Transition tease, but that's just the start. There's more chaos under the surface. The video opens with Justin Gaethje addressing a topic that immediately hits a nerve across the MMA world: fighter pay. Gaethje reacts strongly to comments made by Daniel Cormier suggesting that the UFC's new deal with Paramount would lead to fighters earning more money. From Gaethje's perspective, that promise hasn't materialized at all. He explains that despite earning 14 performance bonuses over his career, the total still doesn't come close to $1 million, something he openly says doesn't sit right with him. He reflects on how limited pay has affected his ability to make smarter financial decisions long-term, admitting there were opportunities he simply didn't have. Gaethje makes it clear that the new deal hasn't changed his situation in the slightest, saying he's not making even $1 extra compared to before. His comments frame a bigger issue, one that goes beyond his own career, subtly questioning whether fighters are being sold a narrative that doesn't align with reality. The frustration in his tone sets the stage for the rest of the video, signaling that what follows isn't just surface-level fight news, but deeper tension simmering behind the scenes. Attention then shifts to Michael Chandler, who finally breaks his silence on Ariel Helwani's show after Dana White publicly shut down the idea of Chandler facing Conor McGregor on the rumored White House card. Chandler's response isn't explosive, but it's layered with uncertainty and restraint. He acknowledges that the Conor fight was discussed years ago and admits it's not encouraging to hear Dana dismiss it so casually. Still, Chandler emphasizes that nothing is official until fights are announced, pointing out that nobody truly knows what the White House card will look like. He stresses that the event is expected to be massive, possibly the biggest card the UFC has ever assembled, which leaves the door cracked open just enough to keep speculation alive. Chandler explains that throughout his career, he's heard plenty of discouraging things that later turned out to be false, so he's choosing patience over reaction. He admits the situation isn't ideal, but insists all he can do is control his own preparation. The segment paints Chandler as a fighter stuck in limbo, waiting while rumors swirl and decisions remain out of his hands. The focus then moves to Arman Tsarukyan, who reacts to Dana White once again saying that he needs to work his way back up before receiving a lightweight title shot. Tsarukyan sounds genuinely confused rather than angry, admitting that he doesn't actually know what the UFC wants from him at this point. He says there's been no direct communication explaining what steps he needs to take, which only adds to his frustration. Tsarukyan explains that the last meaningful conversation he had with the UFC involved accepting a fight with Dan Hooker, which he agreed to immediately. After that, narratives started forming without him being included in the discussion. He mentions hearing through others that a headbutt situation may have affected his title chances, but says no one from the UFC ever explained that to him directly. The uncertainty leaves him stuck in a strange position where he's willing to do whatever is asked, but doesn't know what that actually is. This moment highlights the disconnect fighters sometimes feel between their performances and the decisions being made above them. Umar Nurmagomedov then weighs in on the shifting bantamweight title picture, offering a perspective that's surprisingly calculated. He explains that if Sean O'Malley receives the next title shot, it could actually benefit him rather than hurt his chances. Umar lays out a scenario where certain matchups would naturally lead him into a high-profile rematch, particularly one that allows him to avenge a previous loss. He makes it clear that he's not expecting an immediate title opportunity and is prepared to fight again if necessary. Umar speaks calmly about timing, suggesting that whether it takes one fight or several, his goal remains unchanged. He even throws out potential main event scenarios in Abu Dhabi, showing confidence in his trajectory regardless of what the UFC decides. Rather than frustration, Umar's comments reflect patience and long-term thinking, positioning him as someone quietly navigating the chaos instead of reacting emotionally to it. The video then addresses one of the biggest questions in women's MMA, as Dana White confirms that Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes is still very much alive. White explains that the fight was delayed due to Harrison needing neck surgery, emphasizing that this isn't the type of matchup you rush or replace. He describes it as the greatest women's fight ever and makes it clear the UFC is willing to wait until Harrison is fully healthy. Dana praises Nunes for being easy to work with and says the surgery went well, with Harrison expected to make a full recovery. According to him, the plan is to book the fight later this year. This segment reassures fans that despite delays and uncertainty, the UFC sees this matchup as too important to abandon, reinforcing its significance in the sport's history. Alexander Volkanovski then gives a brutally honest look into what cutting to 145 pounds actually involves. He explains that while fighting itself is obviously difficult, it's limited to 25 minutes, whereas the weight cut is a prolonged battle filled with discomfort and pain. Volkanovski details how much weight he drops in fight week, often cutting 7 to 8 kilograms before shedding even more the night before weigh-ins. He describes sweating out liters of fluid, calling it a massive physical toll that fans rarely see. Over time, he's learned how to endure it, but he makes it clear that getting used to it doesn't make it easy. His comments strip away any illusion that elite fighters are immune to suffering, reminding viewers that what happens before the cage door closes can be just as brutal as the fight itself. The build-up to Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett takes a darker turn as both fighters reveal how they're approaching the fight mentally. Gaethje admits that despite winning his last bout, he still feels like he's coming off the knockout loss to Max Holloway. He says that mindset pushes him to fight better because danger sharpens his focus. Pimblett, on the other hand, addresses criticism that he's only beaten fighters past their prime. Gaethje surprisingly defends Paddy, calling critics cowards who've never taken real risks. Both men talk about momentum, adversity, and violence, with Gaethje insisting that Pimblett is dangerous and confident. Pimblett fires back by promising that Gaethje won't be physically the same after their fight, framing the matchup as a collision that will leave lasting damage. The tension between them feels real and deeply personal. American Accent then stirs controversy with harsh comments aimed at Dustin Poirier following Poirier's loss to Max Holloway in what was expected to be his retirement fight. Pimblett criticizes Poirier for announcing his retirement in advance, saying it placed unnecessary pressure on him and led to a humiliating performance. He claims Poirier embarrassed himself in his own backyard and suggests that if someone plans to retire, they should simply walk away instead of making a spectacle of it. The remarks immediately stand out as disrespectful, especially given Poirier's status and legacy in the sport. This moment adds another layer of animosity to Pimblett's public image, reinforcing his willingness to cross lines and generate backlash. The video wraps up by spotlighting fan reactions from the previous episode, showcasing comments that range from sarcastic to outright skeptical. One comment jokes about Nick Diaz's rehab situation, while another dismisses rumors surrounding Jorge Masvidal and Conor McGregor. A third questions whether Nick Diaz even wrote a recent statement attributed to him. By highlighting these comments, the video reinforces audience participation and invites viewers to engage, reminding them that their opinions could be featured next. It closes on a familiar note, encouraging subscriptions and teasing more MMA news ahead, leaving viewers with the sense that the drama never really stops. It just carries over into the next upload.